Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So what I have for you guys today is from Cash Jordan. Chicago residents panic as sanctuary jail releases hundreds of illegals. Now this is getting insane. So let's go ahead and jump into the video and react.
We are following breaking news out of Chicago, where a judge has just ordered hundreds of individuals detained by federal agents to be released.
So, after months of attacking law enforcement, the mobs in Chicago have gotten their wish, as a sanctuary judge has ordered the release of 600 illegal fugitives who were each tracked down by ICE, while agents endured constant rioting and assaults, while working overtime to bring criminals in this lawless stronghold to justice. Justice this sanctuary wants to make sure never happens.
We thought that something like this might happen. We were hearing rumblings that potentially people were going to get out into the street and give themselves up. That's what they said, to be arrested. You guys can see this clash taking place. We saw more than 20 people actually come into this road right here.
Yeah, this is shocking, Kate. This is a federal judge who says that what ICE and Border Patrol have been...
And what's insane about this right now is that none of these people, just like, the last video that we were talking about, the youth, the future astronauts, the future presidents, all those young people running amok, none of them fear consequences. Why? Because you have rogue judges that are so soft that they're just allowing all this chaos to happen. They don't give two F's about the fact that the people they're letting out are rapists, murderers, drug dealers, gangbangers, that they have rap sheets a mile long. Like, look at what happened in Chicago with the woman that was set on fire. The person was arrested, and I have to make a correction because I said 74 in my last video, but it was 72 times. Why was that guy even out in the street? And it's because of these stupid rogue judges that instead of going based off the law, they're going off of feelings, off of their political beliefs. None of that is warranted in your job description. You are supposed to be neutral, and they're proving the point that they're not. They don't care. They want to see the cities burn. And that's exactly what's happening in Chicago.
Doing in Chicago is in violation of a 2022 consent decree.
Because the government has been unlawfully detaining people in mandatory detention, I'm very fearful.
Which it wasn't unlawful, which we're hoping it goes, overrode or override in appeal. And the thing is that, the Supreme Court has already told these judges to stop with their shenanigans. And what do these judges keep doing? They keep playing these semantic games, these word games. And even though they know they're not supposed to be doing this, they're like, well, we found this loophole by using this word instead, or that word. And then they push it through, and then the Trump administration has to go and appeal it. Then the Supreme Court has to go back in and say, bro, what are you guys doing? We already told you, stop. Just let the man cook. But nope, we gotta keep doing this. And like I said, these people don't care. These people have security guards. These people make a lot of shmoney. They don't care about the fact that these people are spilling into the poor areas, into the ghetto, into the hoods. They don't care. They don't care that this is happening to the supposed people that they, protest for. They really don't.
That at least a couple hundred of them are already gone.
Gone as in deported, either at the government's hand or self-deported. But of the thousands who remain in U.S. custody, Judge Jeffrey Cummings today ordering the release of 615 people.
ICE agents and those allied law enforcement teams risked their lives to apprehend those 650. And I'll tell you what, we're going to go even harder on the streets. If he releases those 650, we're going to apprehend 1,650 on the streets of Chicago.
So a judge has pulled a fast one on the Trump deportation machine, and everybody's wondering, what happens next. But nobody's mentioned that if this scheme to free fugitives works in Chicago, it's going to be tried again in other sanctuaries throughout America. But it's important to understand that the only reason this worked here is because Chicago is special. And back in 2023, a Biden-era judge sided with the ACLU in a warrantless arrest case. And there's a decree on the books until February of 2026 blocking this practice. But here's where things get weird. ICE does not need a warrant to arrest a federal fugitive, and that is something that Congress decided, which makes this order a bit suspicious. And Homeland Security says this never should have been agreed to in the first place. And that's why ICE is still stopping cars, blocking roads, raiding homes and businesses, looking for those here without permission, many of whom maintain dangerous connections to a vast criminal underworld, where you'll find gangs like the Tren de Aragua, who'd recently taken over a Chicago apartment building while paying zero rent. Which brings us to the real reason the border battle in Chicago and in other cities like Charlotte, North Carolina is heating up. Keeping America safe from criminals shouldn't be political, but the party of political violence has decided that it ought to be. But despite sanctuary mobs and judges, the border chief has remained defiant, saying his men are just gonna dig in their heels and do their job even better now that they're under attack from a lawless judicial system. And arrests are only gonna go up as more resources flood this place, which will stop not only the dangerous fugitives, but also the mobs supporting them.
This is wrong. I'm here because there's torture in that facility. It's a concentration camp, and because my conscience calls me.
It's insulting to what happened, to the Jews, that these people use this language. Like, that's insulting to those people, because that's not what's going on here. And I know on X they're floating around photos that were from when Biden was in office and putting these people in these overcrowded cages, and during Obama's run, where he was the originator of kids in cages. But they keep trying to push those two photos as if those were Trump's. Ridiculous.
To do it. What's happening here is evil, and the Illinois State Police are complicit in it.
So here we have a sanctuary priest who's always at this deportation jail for some reason, and he says what's going on inside is wrong, enforcing America's laws is evil, and he calls it a concentration camp, which isn't true. Many detainees in this place are transferred out and deported as soon as possible, a process which takes longer the more rioting that goes on outside of it, with the mobs out front not realizing their antics just keep people here longer, which might actually be what these people want. They don't care about folks that are in the country illegally. So these protesters, you've got to understand something. They didn't just show up and get arrested. They have a designated quarantined protest zone, which is separate from the roadway and the driveway of this place. They know they're supposed to stay there. There's an armada of state police out front telling everybody to stay in the designated protest zone. But what do? They like to hop out of their little barrier and run around in the street and get arrested and make a big scene for the cameras and get their 15 minutes of TikTok fame. You see the game these radicals play as they get arrested and scream and act like it's the end of the world after they've broken the law and disobeyed lawful orders. And as you're about to see, this is not about protesting. This is not about freeing people who shouldn't even be in our country to begin with. It's about something else.
So, yeah, I don't understand these protesters. I'm going to use the word lightly, okay? Because where were they when Biden was deporting, surprisingly enough, deporting some people? Where were these people when Obama, who was known as a deporter-in-chief, where were all these people protesting? And when you bring it up, they change the subject, or they're so shook and surprised, and they're like, well, we're not talking about Obama. He's not president. And it's like, really? So y'all just gonna roll over and show your belly? You're not gonna freaking give me an argument? Because if you were really for any form of injustice, then you can answer that question. You could be like, you know what? it was messed up when he did it. I didn't, maybe, give me some context. Say stuff like, you know what, I didn't know that was going on. Or, I never learned of any protests, else I would have came, like something. But to say like, I don't know. Oh, well, it doesn't matter to me. Why? Because it's Obama? Jesus. So, yeah, I don't know. It's really just frustrating when you're talking about all these protests, But let's keep going.
Might happen. We were hearing rumblings that potentially people were going to get out into the street and give themselves up. That's what they said, to be arrested. You guys can see this clash taking place. We saw more than 20 people actually come into this road right here, and these officers responding. As you can see, it looks like they have formed a human chain.
Okay, so what you're looking at right here, these are Antifa 101 tactics. Force the police to arrest you and then scream about how the police are wrong and how all of this is unjust and try to generate sympathy for this cause, which again is not about freeing fugitives. It's about resisting Trump. Every U.S. president's deported people, but they only care about it when Trump does it. On top of that, you don't need to enter a roadway and paralyze it to peacefully protest. And you certainly don't have to altercate with law enforcement to peacefully protest. That's not what peaceful protesting entails at all. But remember, we're talking about a lawless sanctuary here. We've got elected officials all over the Chicago area telling people that Trump's awful and that they need to stand up and resist it. Now this judge has come out of nowhere and has released people that ICE officers put their lives on the line to take into custody.
Despite a court order banning warrantless arrests that had been agreed to by the government, Border Control officers and ICE agents continued to round up suspected immigration violators without legal warrants.
Because the government has been unlawfully detaining people in mandatory detention, I'm very fearful that at least a couple hundred of them are already gone.
Gone as in deported, either at the government's hand or self-deported. But of the thousands who remain in U.S. custody, Judge Jeffrey Cummings today ordering the release of 615 people who were arrested without warrants.
So here's what's interesting.
But that's, again, ridiculous because, first of all, you have some of them being arrested through, like I said, the judicial warrants. You have some of them that are administrative warrants. And then you have some of them who literally admitted they had a crime. That doesn't require any form of a warrant. But of course, like I said, these people like to play the semantic games. They like to play these word games. Anything they can do to try and get one over on Trump. And I can't wait for this to expire because, oh my God, I could just imagine the liberal tears and the hate that they're going to have. We're probably going to see this again. Yeah, we're going to see that, which is going to be glorious. But let's keep going.
Interesting about this, ICE doesn't need a warrant to make these arrests. They don't. If they needed a warrant to do this, they wouldn't be able to arrest anybody in America. But there's something special happening in this sanctuary, and it's just like what happened at the U.S. border. But before we get into that, a simple Google search will tell you that ICE does not need a warrant. Everyone who wants to know this can easily know this. However, lawyers for the ACLU argued that warrants should be required, even though they're not. And here's how that happened. Chicago judge orders release of hundreds arrested by ICE. This consent decree was signed in 2022 when President Joe Biden's agencies agreed to accept curbs drafted by the ACLU. A legal safeguard was put in place in this sanctuary to keep it that way, even though it goes against the laws that are already on the books in this country. And that's exactly what happened at the border. We had laws down there that said it should be shut, and they said, you know what, let's open it. We have laws that say people should be deported, but we said, you know what, we're gonna let people come into the country, claim they're here to seek asylum, and hang around in America while that process plays itself out. So laws have been broken for a very long time here, and this is another one of them. Then it says the people that are gonna get released are supposed to wear ankle monitors, which, I mean...
We saw that work out well, right? With the chick that And I'm pretty sure if y'all have X or Facebook or any form of social media, it was the Slender Man stabbing chick who cut off her ankle monitor. And it took them a while to find her. Yeah, that's going to work.
Who knows if they'll remove them or not? They've already been arrested once. DHS attorneys say that judges like this individual don't have standing to make orders like this, and that Congress has stripped the federal courts of any authority to release immigrants in federal custody. Our attorneys argue that Congress has vested the authority to grant parole securely with the Secretary of Homeland Security, and a federal court cannot overrule this.
Judge Cummings allowing the government time to recheck that there are no dangerous criminals being released. Deadline a week from Friday. For now, then, they are among an estimated 5,000 Chicago area detainees who will remain behind bars, mostly locked up in local jailhouses under contract with ICE. NBC5 Investigates has found at least 20 facilities scattered across the central U.S. being...
So this judge's order, it only applies to a very small number of people who are in custody. And what's absolutely crazy about this is the mobs and the local politicians are interpreting this. They are being told that, hey, see, we told you what Trump's out there doing is wrong. It's illegal. A judge just blocked him. A judge just came out and said that what Trump is doing is illegal. And since it's a judge and we know Trump's a criminal, obviously the judge is right. This is just emboldening this dangerous anti-ICE resistance movement that wants to stop the federal government from doing its job. But here's the thing, releasing dangerous criminals back onto the streets, that's the opposite of public safety. That doesn't do anything that these activists are claiming. It doesn't make communities safer to release dangerous criminals. It doesn't make communities safer to put people back on the streets who've committed a crime. No, that's bad news, especially when people who are in the country illegally have some connection to the criminal underworld, because how else do you obtain employment? How else do you enter America? A lot of these folks, sadly, have debts that they bring with them that they owe to dangerous gang members, and they're working at jobs fraudulently throughout America to pay back some of the worst criminals on our planet. So even at a minimum, somebody who's here and isn't part of a gang isn't improving America. Their presence here just tempts criminals to try and continue doing the same thing. And if folks are allowed to stay here, we've now got a reward system in place for breaking America's laws. You have to enforce the border.
I think what's important here to realize is that Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, and those allied law enforcement teams risked their lives to apprehend those 650 illegal aliens that judge wants to release on the streets. Terrible. Those illegal aliens came from a myriad of situations, whether they were criminals or individuals that were taking jobs from Americans. You name it, that's what they were doing. And I'll tell you what.
Right. So that's the important thing that we need to understand here. If somebody's in the country and they're not supposed to be here, if they obtain an opportunity, like a job, okay, maybe they're going to work and maybe they're trying to provide for their family, but everybody does that. And on top of that, they have illegitimately taken a job that could have gone to somebody who's here with permission. And that's the part of this that people just aren't understanding. You've got a whole operation in Chicago by the Democrat Party there to try and talk about affordability. Yet here we are in a sanctuary city where opportunities that would make life more affordable for people are being stolen from them. So this whole sanctuary apparatus is not lifting people up who are in this country. It's not benefiting people who are here with permission one bit.
And it does seem like this crowd is getting more violent and pushing back, and it's certainly not what we would call free speech.
That's
These
right.
are people that are deliberately provoking law enforcement, trying to have a confrontation. And you can tell just by their, you see the signs in the background of open borders and other things like that.
Right.
These are people that are determined. They don't care about the conditions where people are being housed. That's a pretext because they want open borders.
Right. That's the thing. They want an open border. All of these rioters, all of these judges, all of these sanctuary mayors and governors, they want the border reopened. So what do? Well, we can't come out and say, hey, open the border. But what we can do is we can fight tooth and nail to try and get a local facility shut down. We can claim it's inhumane. We can try to tell people that folks are being mistreated, that people are being taken off the streets and stripped away from their families. Here's the thing about that. If any criminal is caught and they're in the presence of their family, when they get arrested, they will be placed in custody away from their family temporarily while things happen. We still allow people in custody for immigration-related violations to decide while they are in custody, waiting to see a judge and get their final order of removal that, hey, you can self-deport right now and we'll give you up to $1,000 to make that happen. And if you want to bring your family with you, you can do that. So the U.S. government is still paying people to leave, even the people that are inside this detention facility. They've all got the opportunity to walk out of there whenever they want and start obeying America's laws. The only people even in this place, which does not have concentration camp conditions, because we would have seen video evidence of that by now, these are people who don't even have to be there. They could say, you know what, I'm going to leave the country and start this process over, and they can still leave and apply to come in legally. It's not like they're banned from coming back in legally if they take the self-deportation offer. If they do get that final order of removal, then there's a ban. So the only people in this jail are people who are willing to risk getting banned from ever coming back into America again, ever.
See, and I think when you look at this, the big picture that I think is the worst part of this all is you have J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and instead of saying ICE has a legitimate law enforcement function and they should be respected, he is on the side of these rioters. And
that's the whole problem we got here. We've got a governor, a sanctuary governor, who's on the side of these criminals and is just amping them up and juicing them up every single chance he gets. And that's why these people are out there. They think they're on the side of righteousness when the reality is they're on the side of criminals. What do you think about all this? Thank you so much for...
So, Chicago is such a hot mess. Illinois is such a hot mess. And I feel like one day it's get like both Chicago, like Illinois, like, well, not Illinois itself, but Chicago, New York, California. Now I'm thinking maybe Michigan, Dearborn, Michigan. All these places are going to turn into Mad Max. And the people that are going to be suffering are the American people, not these foreigners, because they're bringing their real world problems with them. The type of lifestyles that they live, the supposed things that they were running away from, they're bringing it here for us as Americans to deal with, which is BS. Like, what they should all do is just self-deport, come back the right way if you really want to come back. If not, hasta la vista. You know what I'm saying? But you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment below, what you guys think of this whole thing and what these judges are doing. Let me know in the comments below, guys. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Till next time, guys.